Welcome back in, builders. This week we're taking a look at Late Age Agartha, Ktonian Dead. In the dark caverns under the roots of the earth, a strange kind of one-eyed humanoids once evolved. Untouched by the sun, they became known to the humans as the Pale Ones. When humans first met the Pale Giants, it was in war. With the destruction of the false god of the Pale Ones, an ancient seal was broken, and vast powers of destruction were released. The Pale Ones were almost wiped out of existence, and humans could move down into the caverns of Agartha. Here they found fabulous riches and ancient secrets. The humans replaced the Pale Ones, and now all Agarthans are pale-skinned humans with large eyes. Everything left by the ancients became subject to worship in Agartha. At first, statues of ancients were adorned and animated by the golem crafters, but most of the statues were destroyed during the Great War, and new forms of worship have evolved. The mummified remains of the now extinct Pale Ones are worshipped and reanimated by necromancer priests. While the mummies of the Pale Ones are sacred, the human dead are not treated with the same respect. Used for menial tasks and warfare, the dead of Agartha now walk side by side with the living. For national features, we are humans with limited dark vision. Our military is made up of light to heavy infantry. We have steel crossbows, and we have cave drake knights. For magic, we are good at earth, death, and we have decent fire, water, and a little bit of astral. Our priests are average powered, meaning priest level 2s are recruitable. We do have a priest level 3 summon if we would like. For scales and blesses, we get a productivity limit of 1 and a death limit of +1. For buildings, we do standard forts of the era, which means citadels, and cave forts increase gold and resources and recruitment points by 10%. With Dominion 6 and the new cave layer, this is really, really good. For sites, we have 2. We have the Tomb of the Oracles. This allows us to get the Ktonian Necromancer, our cap-only mage, and produces 2 death gems. We also have the Mines of the Pale One. This gives us 75 resources and an earth and fire gem. That's a pretty nice little bump. This really helps out a nation that kind of wants to be recruiting pretty high resource units to do their expansion, and this will help you get a few more of those out while you're clearing that cap circle. Units and sacreds. We have a decent roster here. If you like heavy troops and crossbows, I got a nation for you. Starting us off, we have Agarthan heavy infantry. 10 gold, 27 resources, 9 recruitment points. You can see how much higher that resource cost is. This is a human troop with human stats. We are rather slow in combat, and we have rather high encumbrance because we are very well armored. We have dark vision as an Agarthan human. It's 50%. We are wielding a short sword that we're decent with, 11 attack, and the short sword itself is slashing and piercing for 15 damage. A little lower than we would ideally love, but this is pretty close, and we do have the 11 attack over a normal 10. Gear-wise, we have a full chainmail, we have a half helmet, and a kite shield. So pretty darn defensive, a good heavy infantry unit. Next, we have Agarthan infantry. This is 10 gold, 22 resources, 9 recruitment points, wielding the same short sword. We have a chainmail halberd, an iron cap, and a kite shield. So look here in practical terms, 15 body, 16 head versus the heavier troop who has 18 on head and body. Does that matter? Yeah, the 18 is a little bit better. That's above the what I consider 16 average, but I think you could use either ones, especially if you're fighting somebody who's going to struggle with the 15. These guys are 5 resources cheaper, so an extra 20% could be recruited if you are resource bound and you can't get them otherwise. Still have that nice kite shield, so that's great. Next, we have the Agarthan light infantry. 10 gold, 10 resources, 9 recruitment points, basically the same stats. The big difference here is much, much lighter gear while maintaining the same offensive ability. So we have the same short sword and we're equally good with it, but now we're down to just leather gear. I don't love these guys, but in the right circumstances, if you just need the numbers, this is the same offensively as the other troops. Now we have dropped down significantly on defense, but maybe a second wave of these guys come in. Their encumbrance is a lot lower. They also can help bulk out numbers when you're just trying to fill in between some of our cavalry units, which really do like having somebody to share their square with. So if you need something and you need it to be cheap, I mean, you could almost get 3 of these guys for the price of 1 heavy. So that can be a use case there. So pretty good here. I like that. These guys also would make decent bodyguards because they are relatively cheap. And what you mainly care about for a bodyguard is being able to hit something. Like in imp lands, you want them to hit and kill it, not brawl with it. And that's what these guys would be able to do. Next up, we have 3 flavors of crossbows, starting with the Agarthan Light Crossbowman. Excellent crossbow here. 10 gold, 11 resources, 9 recruitment points. Human stats. I will note, we only have 8 precision. We got those big saucer eyes that give us the dark vision, but that does not help our precision. Now, underground, against another crossbow who doesn't have dark vision, you actually come out ahead. But on the surface, you're equal at best and probably behind against other crossbowmen. Is that a huge problem? Not really, because you're still going to want weight of fire. And these guys are really nice and cheap, so you can get lots of them out. They have a steel short sword that they're not the best with, and they have the Agarthan steel crossbow. It's a 10 damage armor piercing crossbow. It fires once every 2 rounds, not every 3, so they're pretty quick. The range is 40. We do get that 2 precision that you get from crossbows with the 12 ammunition. So we're shooting at a 10 precision. However, most human crossbowmen are shooting at a 12. So we are a little bit behind there, but not horrifically so. We also have the ability to have really nice heavy troops with kite shields that don't love being shot with crossbows, right? But you could probably survive a couple stray shots. So we have a good blocking troop for these guys. This lighter version has a chainmail cuirass and a leather cap. Next up, we have the Agarthan crossbowman. It's the same guy, but now he has a chainmail cuirass and an iron cap. So we've moved up our protection a little bit. And then we have the heavy crossbowman, who is now wearing full chainmail and an iron cap. I don't actually love these guys. In archery duels against other crossbowmen, 17 protection is not going to change the outcome. Half that, so we're down to, let's even round up to 9 and then drop 1 for the normal piercing damage. So we're down to 8 protection. That's not going to change the circumstances that much from just a light crossbowman. And the light crossbowman is 11 resources versus 27. So about 3 to 1. I think I would rather just have the numbers. But and there could be circumstances where maybe these guys are more useful. They would stand up better if flyers are landing on them. They'll hold out long enough that something can come save them. So that's definitely a use case there. Next, we have the entrance guard. 16 gold, 37 resources, 23 recruitment points. So a very expensive guy. We've moved up to much better than human stats. 14 HP, 11 strength, 11 attack. But I mean, that's a premium that you're paying for that. They have a short sword that they're really good with. 12 attack for 16 damage. So now we're up to that 16 gold standard, and we have a good attack with it. Do note, all of our troops are wielding that short sword. So it is not uncommon that troops in late age are wielding length 2 weapons, so or maybe still some length 3s. So you could get repelled out, but it's okay. It's an okay weapon. These guys specifically are wearing full plate mail and a full helmet and have a kite shield. So if we look here, 21 on body and head, but 10 encumbrance. So pretty darn heavy gear. They also come with castle defense bonus of 2. So for defense strength, they are 1.6 on the siege defense. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty dang impressive. And of course, the dark vision that we've been seeing. These guys, I don't know. Maybe if I knew, like, okay, I have a fort on a throne, and this is going to be like, I have to hold this while I'm getting the winning throne somewhere else. Maybe I'm trying to spam these guys out just for the better siege defense and to clog up the doorway longer for more crossbowmen behind them. But that's a lot of resources. That's like heavy cav levels of resources. Next, we have a really interesting unit and a very good one, the Agarthan Sapper. The Agarthan Sapper is 20 gold, 18 resources, 31 recruitment points. It's a human statted unit. It has a siege bonus of 7. So we have a siege strength of 8.2. That's like ogre levels of siege for not that bad. I mean, this is going to be like you're probably going to build like one group of these guys, and they're going to go around and assist your sieges. This isn't horrific. What is horrific is if they get drawn into combat, they're likely to die. Leather armor, iron cap, that's only 9 on the body. They are wielding a pickaxe that they're not very good with, but it does hit hard. And they have one shot of Cave Fire Bottle. This is a range 5, AoE 1, fire magic damage for 10 damage. That's not terrible. If you had to have these come into combat, and they were your second line, and like the enemy walks up to you, they're engaged in melee, this is actually going to be a pretty precise shot because it's so short range. That's not terrible. A 10 fire magic damage, AoE 1. You only get one shot, but better than nothing, I suppose. Interesting. Very useful for the siege power, though, is what I would say. Especially having to dig out people that are sitting in citadels. You're going to appreciate that. Especially because it's going to be hard for us to get huge numbers because we're more of an elite force than a spammy force. Next, we have the Cave Knight. Ironically, one of my favorite units in the game. It is a heavy knight riding a cave drake. Note, these are the same cave drakes that you would summon from Conjuration with Earth Gems, and we can get a cave drake for 75 gold, 36 resources, 37 recruitment points, and it just so happens to have a heavy infantry guy riding on top of it. That's a great deal. I would pay 75 gold for an Earth Gem, even if you were summoning it 1-to-1, so very good there. The rider has better than human stats. He's pretty decent, actually. Does have that dark vision, of course. He is a broadsword for 12 attack, 17 slashing damage, and he himself is armored with full chainmail, a half helmet, and a kite shield. So a very armored 18 armor rider, and one of the few units in Dominion 6 that the rider is actually more likely to die than the mount. The mount himself has 22 protection, 58 hit points, has a bite that he's not great with, but it'll hit once in a while. He's smart, so that means you're likely to get these guys to come back if they lose their rider, so you can get half-price recruits. When they're not ridden, they are undisciplined. They have that dark vision. They are cold-blooded. That is something of note, because we have some other things that we can summon in that would make us kind of like cold, so you have to kind of weigh your options. Do you want to go heat? Do you want to go cold? These guys are good enough. I weigh these pretty heavily. I like this unit a lot. 75 gold, 36 resources, 37 recruitment isn't terrible. I find that usually on turn 1, if you go all in on these guys, you could get 7 of them. How many nations can get 7 heavy cavalry on turn 1? And 7 heavy cav, that is a cave drake level mount. Note here, 10 magic resistance on the rider, 12 on the drake. So that, again, you don't have that main weakness that we see on most cavalry where the mount has like 4 to 6 magic resistance or also low morale. These guys are just bumping it. They're loving life. I will note, because I may forget this later on, the mount buffs are actually pretty good on these guys. So if you stumble in somehow that you can get the speed upgrade on these would be really appreciated. The attack and defense would be really appreciated, etc., etc. Yeah, we like these knights a lot. This is a very, very viable expansion unit. The attrition is not horrific, and like I said, the Drake is likely to live through the battle, and because of the smart mount tag, you're likely to be able to replace him with a half-price unit, which is quite nice. Quite nice on those. Finally, we have a Recruit Anywhere Sacred, one of my favorite things in the game, the Blind Fighter. This is a mixed bag on this guy. Overall, I do like him. 26 gold, 37 resources, 31 recruitment points. So pretty pricey because he's a heavy infantry guy. He has better than human stats. The 14 HP is nice. Good strength, great attack value. He is in full plate mail, has a blind helmet, and a kite shield. That gives him 21 on the body and 23 on the head. Turns out when you just wear a solid pot on your head, it's pretty defensive. They are sacred. They're magic beings. Now, this causes a couple problems. Magic beings have to be led by somebody with magical leadership. Sometimes that means mages. Sometimes you have leaders that have magical leadership. We do. But there's certain spells and magic items that specifically target magic beings, and they tend to be really nasty. Like, really nasty. So that is a penalty there. They're blind. Because they're blind, that means they can't lose eyes, or if they do, it doesn't matter. They can fight totally fine in blindness or darkness or twilight or anything, so you don't have to worry about that. And they have spirit sight. Spirit Sight makes it possible to see in the spirit realm and see the true essence of beings. Units with Spirit Sight suffer no penalties from darkness and can see invisible units. So pretty darn nice there. They are wielding, unfortunately, the short sword. It'd sure be nice if they had broadswords, but 14 attack, 16 damage. These guys are very good at hitting. Their problem is 10 encumbrance. 10 encumbrance. So remember, at 20 encumbrance, or excuse me, at 20 fatigue, you start taking combat penalties. These guys poop out really, really quickly. What this means is these guys are really good at holding a line, and they're good at getting maybe a couple kills depending on what they're fighting. And then they're just done. They're going to stand there and people are going to hit them out for a really, really long time. So I don't think that, generally speaking, a super offensive bless is warranted here. Now, we do have some summonable sacreds, so there are some other considerations. But for these guys, I think you're mainly looking at either trying to help out the encumbrance or making them more survivable or giving them a way to actually affect the field, aka heat or cold auras, maybe fear, maybe even awe to try to make it even harder to get rid of them. Something like that. More than, this is not a unit that's going to run in and kill 20 units each. They're just going to pass out before that ever happens. So we'll talk about that more when we get to God design, but just a very interesting sacred. I love the design of this, these stats here, and the fact that they're recruit anywhere. If this was a cap only unit, forget it. But the fact that they're recruit from all of our forts is very, very nice. Heroes, Commanders, and Prophet. For heroes, we have one. We have the Master of Alchemical Secrets. Pretty nice mage here. 2 fire, 2 water, 2 earth, 1 astral, 1 death. He's a priest level 1. He has poison resistance. He's insane 10. That's not great. Has dark vision, is very old, has adept researcher plus 10, and he's an alchemist 100. That doubles the amount of gold you get from spells that change gems into gold. You know my love of alchemy. He comes with a cave fire bottle, just the one, and he joins battle with a Living Mercury. Living Mercury has a poison aura. Be aware of that. That can be rather nasty. And I believe the Mercuries, I'm pretty sure they were nerfed between 5 and 6, but it's like a water elemental that has a poison cloud, so that can be rather interesting. Going up into our main line here, we have the Agarthan Scout. This is basically the normal scout that you see, but he also has a dark vision. Next, we have the Cave Captain, 100 leadership, 95 gold, 22 resources, 1 recruitment point. Has a short sword he's decent with, has his decent protective gear, giving him 15 on the body. Perfectly usable unit to move troops around, to lead armies. We get formations. That works just fine. Next, we have the Gate Lord. This guy is in the plate mail, so we've moved up to 21 protection. Good with the short sword again. He has that castle defense bonus of 10. So again, really good for keeping people from being able to siege you out. 150 leadership does give you a +2 for units you're leading. I will note down here, if we look here, 10 morale, 10 morale, 10 morale. We're not super duper high morale. So there's an argument to be made that that +2 is actually kind of nice. The worst thing you want is heavy infantry that's already tired to then morale break and then get chopped down while they're running away slowly. You do not want that. You want them to hold still and let your crossbows do a lot of the work. Next, we have the Blind Lord. This is our sacred leader. 100 leadership, and he can lead 50 magical units. This does allow you to formation them. And yeah, there's not a lot else to say about that. He's got the high 21 protection. He is sacred himself, but he is not a priest, so he cannot do the blessing. These guys, you're going to get them. You're going to use them to probably lead around those troops. Next, we have a Drake Lord. This is the knight version of the leaders. Again, great. I do like to use these guys to lead around the Drakes. Makes it so that you have a leader who's relatively hard to kill. He has that nice Drake. I believe when selecting what gets hit in a square, it's based on size. So the size 6 Drake versus the size 3 human, the Drake is much more likely to be the target of things that are hitting the square. So that makes him relatively safe. It's the same thing with normal cav, but being a size 6 mount helps. Also note, I didn't mention this on the unit. They are size 6. Our humans are size 3. that means we can push to the front somewhat with these guys, and that will be really nice, and share a square with somebody. Next, we go into our Mage Corps. We have the Attendant of the Dead. He is an Earth 1, Death 1, Priest 1. He has 9 research for 56 gold. So pretty efficient. That's not horrible. And he has Corpse Stitcher. This is going to be common on a lot of our mages. This is essentially healing for undead. Very, very nice. This does heal afflictions like Tartarans would have when they're summoned in, making this one of the premier Tartaran summoning nations. Next, we have the Ktonian Reanimator, Earth 1, Death 2, 11 research for 148. So now we're not efficient, but in addition to Corpse Stitcher 3, they bring in 10 resource bonus. So every one of these guys adds 10 resources to your fort. In addition, they have a Solace at their side at the start of battle. A Earth 1, Death 2 isn't terrible. You could give him an Earth Gem. He could summon Earth Power and then summon in more undead pretty efficiently. That would be one route you could take with him. Or you could at least give yourself defensive buffs before you start summoning in undead. Or lob in Shadow Bolts or something. So a decent mage, although a little pricey because we're kind of paying for this that isn't combat ability, but they're fine. They're usable. They're good. Death 2 is a good pathing. They can make Skull Staves already. Next, we have Ktonian Alchemist. Comes in with Fire 1, Water 1, Earth 1, and a random of the same plus Death, making him pretty versatile. A Fire 2 is fine, a Water 2 is fine, and Earth 2 is fine. The Rainbow that has the Death on there, not as useful, but that's okay. They are 152 gold per year, which is just under being efficient. But they also bring in Alchemist, and I love Alchemy, so this gives us a 50% bonus on the gold that we would get from spells. I oftentimes find myself in the early game changing fire into gold, and these guys just make that more efficient. There also are easy access to elemental magic, so being able to do Furious Warriors or lob fireballs or magma stuff, being able to do rust stuff if you're in certain circumstances. The Water 2s make for great quickness buffers. Rather nice there. If you do get the Earth 2, you can Earth Power up to 3, and then you can do your Strength, your Sharpness, your Temper Armors, all that good stuff. All things that we really appreciate. Next, we have the Servant of the Oracles. This is a Earth 1, Death 1, Priest level 2. Gets a random of Fire, Earth, Astral, Death. Is a Corpse Stitcher 2. Has some leadership, both for undead and magical leadership and normal troops. 260 gold, a little pricey for the mage. I think you're getting these guys if you're having trouble blessing and you don't want to just get the priest level 1s. The 2 is better at blessing, and you can do Sermons of Courage, which, as I mentioned, we only have 10 morale on most of our troops, or all of our troops. So that little bit of extra morale is actually kind of appreciated. In addition, when you're underground, it's not uncommon to run across provinces that have shades, shade beasts, undead, blood mages throwing imps at you sometimes. And so being able to do a nice banish on those is appreciated. Finally, we have our cap-only mage, the Ktonian Necromancers. This is a cap-only soul to recruit, 415 gold, 1 resource. He has old man stats. He is age 60 out of 48, so he's relatively old. He has Fire 1, Earth 2, Death 2, Priest 1, and a random 110 of Fire, Earth, Astral, Death. So a pretty good mage here. All of those would be useful. Yeah, all of those are useful. Magma spells right off the top of my head. You always can be guaranteed that you can summon Earth Power and then do the big buffs. You can summon Earth Power and then do the death stuff. All of those are really good. What you probably don't want these guys doing is being your main blessers, just because slow to recruit, cap only, doing the same job that we could do with this little guy, probably not worth it there. But you would really, really, really like to get these guys out of your capital. They have Corpse Stitcher 5. This is actually really relevant because one of our summons we can do start with afflictions, or can. And so being able to clear those up is really, really helpful. So you probably won't get these guys with that intent. You'll probably have Necromancers that are kind of doing that. But either way, a good mage. Definitely you want to get him out and casting, not sitting around being a researcher. 17 for 166 is efficient, but remember this is a slow to recruit. So something to think about there. Who do you want to make your prophet? I think you can't go really wrong with the heavier troops. I think ideally I would want a Blind Lord or I would want a Drake Lord. The Drake Lord is probably the safest option. Again, just the safety of being a cavalry unit, and you have other cavalry you'll probably be using, so he won't get picked out. The Blind Lord as a prophet would work, but I'm just worried about getting sniped out by spells that target magic beings, so just be aware of that. I don't think I would do mages in this case. And as always, you know, some people like scouts, prophets. I don't really will have those very much, so not for me there. As for national items, we have one national item. I believe this has been nerfed since 5. I believe it used to be up here. We have the Mercury Barrel. Interesting item. I don't know about it. It lets you summon in automatically a living Mercury, which can be quite detrimental to your mage's health because of that poison cloud. It costs water 1, earth 1, so we can do this natively. It's heavy, so you can't deliver it with the new rituals. That's kind of whatever, but I don't know on this one. Maybe on one of our summonable thug units. Maybe. Beyond that, we have no other special items, but as a Earth Nation and Death Nation, all the classic Earth and Death things are, I will specifically call out being able to summon in the Skull Staff, being able to craft the Earth Boots, being able to do things like Bracers of Protection, Bottled Fire, Skull Mentors, things along those lines are all good. Unfortunately, we don't have really easy access to any of the good research boosters because we do have a lot of magic goals that we would like to make. So that's a little sad. I think you'd probably be looking at Skull Mentors, but you're trading your death gems that you may want to be doing other things with. Even that being said, though, that is plus 14 research, and that would help you along quite nicely. As for national spells, we actually have quite a few. Starting in Conjuration, at 3, we can summon Penumbrals and Awaken Shard Wights. These are natively able to be cast, 6 death gems and 10 respectively. You get 6 for 6, which is pretty good on Penumbrals, and you get 5+ for 10 death gems. So if you do go with a really high death pretender, this spell can actually be pretty efficient. We'll look at them here in a minute, but they bring in some magic weapons, which is something that we don't otherwise have available. And it's just nice not to be pigeonholed into taking magic weapons on our sacreds, who, let's admit, are pretty mediocre at using them. Beyond that, at 5, we have Summon Umbrals. Again, this is something we can do natively. For 8 death gems, we get 6. Pretty decent value there. We also can Awaken Sepulchral. For 3, this isn't bad either. Again, we'll look at him here in a minute. These guys are pretty nasty units. At 6, we get Awaken Tomb Oracle. This is a little bit hard. We have to hit a 25% chance to summon, but that's fine. Even on a slow to recruit, you'll probably get that. And worst case scenario, you can build yourself a Skull Staff to guarantee it. For 30 gems, we get a very nice holy level 3 mage. We'll look at him here in a minute. At 8, we have Hall of the Dead. This is a 5 death, 1 earth, 25 gem. These give us 20+, and these bring in Shard Wights, which are, again, a pretty nice little unit. I don't know if this is where we spend those gems, but maybe. Those are pretty decent. I'll call out in Alteration specifically here. We have Iron Marionettes, 3 earth, and it costs 1 earth gem. This is an AoE 25. I wish this was a battlefield one, but that probably would be a little powerful. It gives us undead are granted 4 attack and 4 combat speed. This is going to make the undead summon we're going to look at here in a minute very good. I believe they have 8 or 9 attack natively, and taking that up by +4 makes them actually pretty darn killy, and the combat speed helps them out a decent amount too. Beyond those, Earth Meld and the other ones going all the way up to Maws of the Earth are pretty nasty. We have high armor. Do note this is armor piercing, but you'll probably be able to survive a hit from this if you had to. It does 15+ magic damage and an AoE 7+ with 3 bonus precision. So if you do want to spend an Earth Gem offensively, you could do a lot worse than this. If you Earth Power first, you're either up to 3 and you can cast it once and then you're kind of pooped out. Or if you have an Earth 3 guy, he could cast it twice before he poops out. Remember, this does Earth Grip. When you're Earth Gripped, your defense basically drops to 0, and people can hit you with armor defeating attacks, which helps them get through high protection. Very, very disgusting. Also, doesn't affect flying and floating units. Just keep that in mind for something later. All those are good spells. We are quite good at using them. The protection buffs are really good. Do note, though, remember, watch out for the susceptibility that you get from these various buffs. Just keep those in mind with whatever else you are deciding to cast. Construction, as mentioned, the earth boots, the skull staves, etc., all pretty good there. We do have a unit that is pretty thuggable, I would say. So just generic thug gear can be rather useful there. In evocation, we can do some magma spells, although we're not going to be like premier like we used to be at that. The one I would specifically call out, though, is Earthquake. It is a 4 earth to cast. We can natively get this. 3 earth plus a summon earth power gets you there. Costs 3 earth gems. And it does 8 armor piercing damage that defense negates. So if you grab them with Maws of the Earth or a smaller version first, they can't dodge it. So they just take the damage. It can stun the entire battlefield. And if you do this underground, you get these 20 armor piercing damage hits from various things. Do note here, again, for the Earthquake knockdown stun and for the damage, flying floating units are not affected. Doesn't affect riders either, which might be relevant. But yeah, you're noticing something I'm pointing out here with the flying floating. We have some interesting things we can do with that. Overall, I think this is one of the premier Earthquake units, along with some of the other Agarthan varieties. Magma Eruption, another great spell. Good AoE, decent range. The fatigue is not that bad, especially because you're probably going to summon Earth Power on an Earth 2 mage, so you'll be Earth 3, taking this down to 25. Doing 4 of these early in a fight, that's pretty devastating. That's really devastating to an enemy unit. Beyond that, going to enchantment, we have several more spells here. At 2, we have Iron Corpse Reanimation. For 2 Earth Gems and a Earth 1, Death 1 Mage, which we can easily do, you get 5+ Iron Corpses. We'll look at all these units here in a minute, but this is I would call it a staple of the nation. I think they're that good, especially with the ability for us to buff them. So this is all right efficiency. If you don't have to do it, though, we can do a more efficient version later. We can reanimate Ancestor for 3 Earth Gems, Earth 2, Death 2 to do that. This gets us an Iron Ancestor Commander. These guys are pretty decent. Essentially, we have like like a corpse that we have like strapped armor or bolted armor onto, and then we possess the corpse with a ghost. These can make interesting budget thugs, kind of, sorta. They're not as good as they used to be, but they're interesting. They're interesting. At 4, we have Flame Corpse Construction. This is a Fire Gem, Fire 1, Death 1. These are ordinary troops that when they die, they explode. At 5, we have Nightmare Construction. Now we have an undead horse that has an explosive barrel in it. Interesting, although the use, I don't know, I'm a little dubious on that, but maybe hold attack rear. You might be able to sneak a couple of these in there for some hilarity. At 6, we have Ktonian Legion. This is 15 Earth Gems, Earth 2, Death 2, and you get 30+ of the Iron Warriors. This is the money right here. This is way more efficient than we've got otherwise. Easy for us to cast. The Earth Gems are kind of expensive. I will specifically call out, you also could do Hidden in Sand or Hidden Underneath natively. These get you some mages and some undead units. You can cast Earthquake Warriors. This gives your blunt or slashing weapons the ability to do stunning hits, which is kind of nice. You also get Rigor Mortis. Rigor Mortis, if your Sacreds have a way to lower their encumbrance or get back some of their fatigue, they have pretty good magic resistance. And so against normal human troops with 10 magic resistance, they will be affected far more by this than our Sacreds would be. So if you're running around with a lot of sacreds, there's an argument to be made that we would rigor mortis. In addition, we do have undead troops just in general. So this is a pretty high one. A little bit harder for us to cast natively, but we could definitely do it for sure. At 7, I also want to call out Deep Blood or Earth Blood Deep Well. I think this nation wants this very strongly, because 17 Earth Gems per month and 5 more in a cave, 22 Earth Gems per turn, means that for the rest of the game, we can cast 1 1/4 Ktonian Legion per turn if we have no other income. That's really nice. So I do think Enchantment 7 is a very strong contender for a research goal on this nation. In addition, we also have Giant Strength, which would really help out our line troops, and Weapons of Sharpness, which would really help our killiness. Also, I didn't mention in construction, the Soldiers of Steel protection lines, really good. This turns our sacreds into like 24 protection. That's pretty darn ridiculous for just a human sacred. In Thaumaturgy, the big thing we would like here is the Battle Fury. Again, 2 extra attack, 2 extra morale, both stats that our units would really appreciate. And we are going to get some Fire 2 mages that otherwise don't have a ton to do unless we're going to throw out some offensive magic. So that's something of interest. Let's go ahead and take a look at those units. So pop in here. Okay, Iron Ancestor. This is the leader version of those undead units. As you can see here, Poor Amphibian, Piercing Resistance, Cold Resistance, Poison Resistance. It's undead, it's inanimate, never heals, has Spirit Sight, and is ambidextrous. I think you could make some budget thugs with these guys. They do have 19 protection, and they're not wearing any armor. So if you gave them some armor, they would have ridiculous amounts of protection. No encumbrance natively, so they could go for quite a long time. So giving this guy just a armor and a helmet, just whatever you could cheaply get. Note they have 30 morale, and then probably like 2 AoE weapons. Like you could do some Mace of Eruptions, just a nice cheap example. You could probably go to town really well and just mix these guys in with your Drake Knights, your Cave Knights. These guys could still get to the front guaranteed and share a space with a Cave Knight who offensively isn't the best, but defensively is pretty useful. A couple of these guys sprinkled into that line would make it much more killy. Could definitely be something there. The Tomb Oracle is our pseudo thug slash maybe even super combatant, maybe. Comes in with 3 earth, 3 death, priest level 3. Is an amphibian, has cold resist, poison resist, is undead, has a chill aura, has Spirit Sight, has Fortune Teller 15, and is a reanimator priest. So you could pull in a lot of undead. I don't think they're really good for that role. These are just too expensive to get. They're like 30 death gems each. But I do think you would like to have one of these guys leading a whole bunch of undead around, being able to bless your recruiting your sacreds, throwing out some big battlefield spells. These guys with an Earth Boot can easily cast Earthquake or other big death stuff. We'd like Darkness out of Alteration. There's another spell I didn't mention. We really would like to fight in the dark to bring other people down to our level. The Iron Corpse is the standard summoned in undead for us. These guys have a 50% chance to come in with afflictions. That's where that Corpse Stitcher is really helpful. Overall, 15 hit points and 16 protection, all of which is natural. Not the worst. Do note you can't temper armor on them, but that's okay. You could give them other buffs that gets the temper armor on your human troops that you probably care a bit more about. Note that these guys are mindless and undead and inanimate. That makes them immune to a lot of things, but we are undead, so we are still banishable. Just keep that in mind. We also never heal. So magic never healing beings that regain their hit points when they have access to a lab. So getting these guys healed up after combat's rather hard, but these are relatively disposable. Remember, we have that national spell to add 4 attack. So a 13 attack, piercing, slashing, 17 damage that we dual wield. Really nice. Mix these guys in behind your Cave Knights. That's some good offensive power. Have these guys flank. That's some good power. I wouldn't put these as my front line. I would try to use my heavier troops to do that, I think, and let these guys try to be a little bit more of your killiness. Big weaknesses. If you're not buffing them, that attack isn't impressive, and their combat speed is really slow. Conversely, though, having all these really slow troops keeps our army together and makes it really easy to paint buffs on them. So, you know, a buff that, let's say, is range 30, well, in 5 rounds, we'll be at the edge of that buff range. So we're not getting anywhere without getting buffed up, which is rather nice. This is the Flame Corpse, very similar, except for we put an explosive barrel in him. And so when he dies, he explodes for 10 armor-piercing fire damage. Maybe a few of these guys, like on hold and attack rear, could do something. I wouldn't mix them in with my line unless I went with heavy fire resistance on Sacreds. Ditto with the Flame Barrel Nightmare. I think these guys are better because they're faster. A couple of these guys on each flank, hold and attack rear, or just attack rear, getting in there and doing a 10 AP fire damage on a mage line, or even archers, crossbowmen, that might actually be worth doing. You'll need a steady supply of them, though, because obviously they explode. Umbrals. Umbrals are a huge victim of Spirit Form. We used to be able to put Army of Marble on them, and that would make them really tough. Having good protection with a life drain while being ethereal, these guys were really good. Now, not being able to take the skin buffs really, really hurts them. That being said, they don't have trample, so they can push their way to the front. They do have cold resistance, so they work well with some of our cold aura units. They are ethereal, so that's hard to deal with. A handful of these guys on hold attack rear on a fort battle can go through the walls and get into the enemy mages. Could be a thing. They do have 68 HP and that lifesteal, so still have some use. They're just nowhere near the god tier that I think they were in 5. Next, Sepulchral. These, I believe, are 3 gems each, but they're fine. I think that's actually worth it. They are sacred, they're amphibians, they have cold resist, poison resist, they're undead, they don't eat, they have a chill aura 3, and they have spirit sight. Note they are size 6 non-tramplers, so they can push their way to the front. And they're wielding an obsidian glaive, which is a length 4 glaive. They have a 13 attack for 41 magic damage, and they're undead. So our national buff spell can hit them. That takes them up to 17 attack. You could get to 19 if you got Furious Warriors on them. That is pretty ridiculous. This is a repel machine, and he's sacred. So he gets whatever else you have for your buff. Armor-wise, 16 is not terrible. And remember, he's going to be repelling like absolutely crazy, and he's going to share his square with somebody else. These guys are really, really hard to get rid of. No encumbrance either. Absolutely ridiculous. I think you'd be very happy investing gems into these guys, and they're going to probably live, and they're going to probably level up. So very, very good unit here. Penumbrals, this is the lighter version. Again, not being able to get protection buffed, I think these guys are worth a lot less. My same comments apply to these guys. In the situations where you can find use for ethereal, I think they're still okay. They're just not the be-all, end-all they used to be. And finally, the Shard Rights, just a good unit. They have the magic damage on a glaive with 12 attack, which is great. It's a length 3, which most things are not running around with length 3 weapons in late age, so good repelling there. They do have 16 protection on the body, so they're fine there. They're a size 4, so they could share their square with 2 human-sized troops if you can somehow manage that. 35 HP is decent, and they're undead. Now, we have so many undead things, I'm not too worried about getting banished, and we have 15 magic resistance. So I think, you'd be really happy to summon these in if you need some magic weapon support. So overall, we have a great lineup. The combination of earth and death and decent pathing makes it really good. We have some usable national spells, which I absolutely love. So overall, I really like our magical lineup that we have here. Okay, let's bring it all together. Late Age Agartha is a nation of heavy troops and crossbows. That is a good combination for Dominion 6, where troop army sizes are up, which means sacred sizes relative to army size are down. And even that being said, we have a recruit anywhere sacred that is at least decent. I think that could be as hard as we could be on them. They're decent, at least. And I think some people will really like them. We get extra resources underground, which is pretty powerful. Resources, income, and recruitment points, all which are pretty good. The site searching underground still, to me, just feels good. Like, it feels like I find more gems underground. Note, I'm only in turn 22, and I have 6, 7, 3, 1, 2, 1, 5 for my income. That is a good gem income for turn 22. Very, very nice there. We have native alchemists, which really help that early game money crunch. I'm on turn 22 and I have 3 castles up, all of which are upgrading to citadels. I have most of the infrastructure up in all 3 of those. I have 3 expansion armies stomping around at this point. Mainly I expanded using drakes backed up with light crossbows. This deals with the underground just fine. The only thing that they don't love is ethereal units. If you see ethereal units, maybe consider bringing in somebody who can help with doing a little bit of banishing or some form of magic to help kind of push things off there. In addition, if you get up to Earthquake, good luck attacking Agartha underground with their Earthquake. So that'll be a fun time for you, I'm sure, with all PD traps and Earthquake traps, etc., etc. Let's take a look at some pretenders. Late Age Agartha has a small but okay selection of pretenders. Yeah, there's a couple missing out of here that I'm curious to why we lost, but that's okay. In Dom 1, we have a unique one, the leader of the Closed Council, 130 points for a Earth 1 mage. I ain't feeling it. We do have a Master Alchemist. He's only 70 points. That is dirt cheap. Unfortunately, we already can recruit alchemists, and we have a hero who has 100 alchemy. So I'm not sure I particularly love that guy, despite there's some nations I would love to get this guy on, but unfortunately not here. Frostfather can be interesting. I'm going to show you a build for him. Great Sage would help our research out. The Great Enchantress does bring in Glamour Gems. Glamour Gems would allow us to maybe diversify into like gnomes or cave kobolds, so that could have some interesting things there. Moving up to Dom 2, we have a couple unique ones here also. We have the Ageless Olm for 140. Unfortunately, it brings in Sloth, which I don't think we like, so that's a big penalty to him. We have a Risen Oracle for 220 points. Risen Oracle has to be compared, I would say, to the Master Lich. So comparing the two, he has 40 points cheaper. They both have immortality. It's just a matter of, do you want 3 death or do you want death and earth on your chassis? Being able to do immortality is pretty good. For either one of these, I would consider maybe trying to snag at least 1 air so that you could do Winds of Death. An immortal caster that can do Winds of Death is super nice, and we could field all undead armies that he could really support with that, or he could just do the hijinks of running into armies to cast it, and if he dies, he's immortal, he'll come right back. We do have the ability to get the Eldest Cyclops. Remember, he is a Master Smith and gives you 30 extra resources. That's, you know, we have mages who could bring in extra resources, so maybe that's a little less value, but decent spread here. We already get the +1 productivity, unfortunately, so a little less value there. The Draco Lich I actually like on this nation. Because we have the Corpse Stitcher, we don't have to worry about getting afflictions on him. We could just take something cheap. I'm going to show a build for him, so we'll talk about him later. Again, I don't like the Sloth on dragons. It is what it is. Moving up to Dom 3, I'm a lot less in love with a lot of these. Titan of the Forge can be decent. Unfortunately, we don't have healer, so we can't fix his limp. But he is a Master Smith. He does have the Forge bonus, so if you really want to go in on forging, he would be okay. I'm not in love with these guys. Yeah, I'm really not in love with these guys. The Reanimator bonus could be a thing. You maybe set yourself up to do white summoning or something, and you get the bonus from that, but The Demi-Lich, of course, is the Demi-Lich. Moving up to 4, we have a couple interesting ones here. Crystal Soul gives you a sight that gives you a Glamour Gem. That could be interesting. The extra magic scales, we would love the research, but I'm a little leery about going magic 2, just because we have so many undead, and making it easier to banish our own undead. Not really feeling that particularly. Yeah, other than that, it's okay. If you want to go with some glamour, I would maybe try to sprinkle in some nature so that you could really diversify your glamour summons. Could be a thing. We have the Golden Pillar. This is only 120 points, and it does up order. So if you wanted to go 3 order, 3 production, you could do that. I don't think we need 3 order, but just if you wanted to. He does come in with Earth 3 natively, so if you wanted to do something really high in Earth, he does it really cheap. I wish he had a sight for an Earth gem. That would make him much more interesting to me. Beyond that, Monolith, the Geyser, the Fountains, they're all okay. Let's take a look at a couple of the builds I actually was playing around with. Okay, first up, we have Despair. Despair was an attempt to do the Winds of Death caster. I don't think I really succeeded very well with him. You're going to need a staff for sure, which makes me a little bit leery. And we have Weightlessness and Undead command here. He comes in at Dormant. We'll talk about this Bless a little more on a different chassis, but he's okay. I think a different Bless would have been better for him. The Foul. This is a Awake, super cheap combatant. My problems with this chassis, 20 invulnerabilities isn't doing it. Dave the Lion has 25, and that's already kind of at the edge, especially if we're going to be underground, having to fight cavemen and troglodytes. That I'm a little leery about 20 invulnerability. That being said, because we have Corpse Stitcher, we can patch up whatever afflictions he manages to get himself, and we just take Reforming Flesh. Reforming Flesh does hit the Sepulcher summon that we can do, so it's not totally wasted. It doesn't help our blind fighters, though. That all being said, I took him as Awake. He can help you expand. I don't think we need the expansion help. Cave Drake Knights do a fine job on that. But I did want to call this out because with the Corpse Stitchers and the Reforming Flesh, this is one of my more liked nations for this guy. And finally, the one I think I like the most of what I was testing, Melt. This is a Frostfather who I guess has just given up on Frost. I don't know. I don't know what happened here. Weightlessness. This is a really interesting Bless. Our blind fighters have 10 encumbrance. This right here, they ignore the weight of heavy armors as well as gain the floating trait. Encumbrance from armor is halved. That takes 10 encumbrance down to 5. 5 encumbrance is a lot more sustainable in combat than 10. This also makes them float. Remember all those spells I kept saying, like Maws of the Earth and Earthquake, do not affect floating units? If you bring your blind fighters and you bring some sacred mages, you can do Maws of the Earth and Earthquake spam and be totally immune to it yourself. And it's going to be really devastating. Cold resistance, I feel, is really good because we have several of those undead summons that have cold auras, like the Sepulcher, and we would like them to be able to push their way to the front through a line of blind fighters, and that cold aura is really going to poop out our blind fighters really, really bad. The 5 protection will take the edge off, and maybe we use some alchemists to paint on 5 more just to make them immune to it, but that really helps. In addition, I took Enchanted Blood. This, again, gives us 1 magic resistance. This would combo in really well with Rigor Mortis. So we're going to Rigor Mortis, maybe we even Grip of Winter. We could do a Quagmire. We could really, really pile on the fatigue on both armies, whereas we're only at 5 for the weightlessness, and we would have a, what would that be, 14 resist on blind fighters to failing their magic save against Rigor Mortis, making them pretty immune to that. Floating makes you immune to Quagmire, so you wouldn't be taking that, and the cold resistance would protect you from the Grip of Winter. So this is a big fatigue play type build, and because we are in super duper heavy infantry, the Enchanted Blood actually will really help with the chip damage that may sooner or later overwhelm your blind fighters. This will keep them in pretty tip-top shape. In addition, it'll help our Sepulcher stay in tip-top shape, and the few things that he does not repel, he can just slowly heal up while he's fighting away. Overall, I really like this guy. The Dominion was a little low, but you're probably going to want to spam temples anyways, and I did find our economy really good if you can take temples, or excuse me, if you can take underground provinces and fort them up. So getting the temples out is not too bad. Also, being underground, it's easier to defend territory, in my opinion, because you know where enemies are probably going to come from. So it's less likely that someone's going to run around and burn all your temples. We ended up with 2 order, 3 production, 2 heat. The reason I went heat, even though we kind of were leaning towards otherwise cold stuff, is this will make sure that you don't have extra fatigue on your cave drakes, who you're going to really rely on for that early expansion. And they're good enough, you might use them all game, even if you are mainly looking at making an army full of blind fighters. We also have the ability to cast Well of Misery, perhaps, and Well of Misery would give us some growth, so we would like that. And just 1 magic makes our casters a little less fatigued when they're casting, helps our research out a little bit. He is Dormant. I didn't find myself wanting to recruit blind fighters in the early game. I wanted cave drakes, so having this come in at Dormant, no problem. if you wanted weightless and a different bless, I do think I would consider magic weapons. Just to have a spammed out magic weapon could be a thing, especially if you're worried about Lemuria being in the game. I don't think that would be a waste, unlike some other nations, but we do have magic weapons available on summons that we are more than capable of being able to do, so I'm not certain on that one. If you don't like the weightlessness, I think you could switch this out for just reinvigoration. The reinvigoration would help our mages out also, more than the weightlessness would, but I think it's a cool build that's going to try to do the, hey, I have a floating army, you can't touch me, the floor is lava, or in this case, the floor is spiky earth and earthquakes. So, yeah, I'm going to do that. Fun Babel fact. One of the things that launched this entire Dominion series was a comment when I did early era Agartha, and somebody commented, hey, you should have tried a weightless bless. And I was like, phew, mind blown. I should have done a weightless bless. And so this is a little nod back to the comment that started this, what's going to turn out to be like a 2.5-year journey down Dominion. So you can thank the weightless bless for all the Dominion's goodness that we have had. In conclusion, I think late age Agartha is in a pretty good space. You can do heavy infantry that are okay against crossbows. You can do crossbows like crazy. You have some good tech units in sappers. You have usable natively summons. We have some interesting national spells. We have alchemists, which are kind of nice. You get to play down the cave layer, which a ton of people don't really do in late age. So there's a decent chance that you just get it to yourself. Or you can do pretty decent against the nations who would want to come down here with you. Overall, I think the late age Agartha is in a decent spot. Do I think it's top tier nation? Probably not, but I think they're solid. No Agartha pun intended there. So get out there, take over the caves. We've got our emo weebs that just really wish that they were pale ones. Still clinging on here at the end of time, doing all right. All right, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave a like on the video. That does help me a ton. If you're not a subscriber, I hope I've earned your subscription with this video. If you'd like to go above and beyond, you can always leave a super thanks on a video. You could join me live on stream for a super chat, or consider becoming a member of the channel. As a member of the channel, you get early access to videos I'm working on, which includes the pre-game series that we are currently watching. In addition, if you tie your Discord in, you'll get a rollover there that gets you into the file channel. In the file channel, there are things like the island maps that we played on stream before, if you'd like to nab those for yourself and play on them, and other files from other games that will be added as we're going. For example, Turn Zero Shadow Empires maps, if you want to play along with those. In addition, I've recently added a Patreon. A few people were requesting alternative ways to donate. The Patreon is mainly used as a tip jar at the moment, but it does also assign you those Discord roles. So if you'd like to have an alternative way to support the channel and still would like to get the Discord files, you can do so there. All right, Cave Weebs, I'll see you on stream. Don't forget to leave any builds you have. I'm especially interested in interesting builds for the blind fighters or other comments. Always welcome. I read every comment. We often talk about them on stream. Love to see you there. All right, I'm going to go dig my hole deeper. I'll catch you later, builders. Babel out.